Today on No Elections Podcast, we're going to end the year 2025 with two amazing local media figures and also give some 2026 bold predictions. With me are Ramine Dash. Ramine is a football coach. He's currently coaching at Woodson, a freshman coach. But him and his partner have an amazing podcast, All Hitches, and they really focus on the Class 6. They started off Fairfax County, Arlington, Alexandria, but now they're doing some Prince William County as well. He's kind of doing with football what Chris Jollay does with basketball. Chris is, as you guys know, Chris is with Nova Hoops, the website, and he just has so much content, schedules, polls, information about recruits. It's just the indispensable source. And so these are the two guys to talk to about football and basketball, and I'm looking forward to picking their brain. Before we get started, Chris is a former Mason guy. He coached at Robinson. We know Chris. Ramine, quickly just give us your background.
Yeah. Well, thanks for having me on. I appreciate it, and happy holidays to everybody.
Yeah.
I'm born and raised in this area. I grew up. I actually went to Woodson. I'm one of five boys, and I'm a PE teacher and coached at Woodson for a long time. And my youngest son graduated a couple of years ago, and when he graduated, I wanted to go. He's playing at W&J, Washington Jefferson College, and so I wanted to take some time to visit him and in college. And I took a couple of years off, came back this year, helping out with freshmen a little bit, just so I can be around the program. I do teach freshmen, so it's good to see my kids outside of the classroom, or outside of the gymnasium. But we started the show 2 years ago, and as a way to we still wanted to be involved in it, around football and stuff. And we thought maybe this would be an easier way to step back. I feel sometimes some nights we're doing more now than we were doing when we were coaching on Friday nights, and you guys know this plenty. I mean, and then we started the Friday night show this year where we kind of live cast and showed all the games. And so now 3 nights a week, my wife is like, I thought you were taking a step back. Now you're doing this and Thursday night freshman football. I'm like, oh, we'll talk about it next week. I keep pushing it off.
Oh, that's great, Ramine. And I think Chris Jollay knows a little bit about what you're talking about. Chris, why don't you just remind us quickly your background and how you got into basketball?
Hey, Mason graduate from Mason. I was a pickup rat. We were talking about it this morning. I'm at Oakton High School right now. I was talking to some people. It was like how I used to go to the Nottoway all the time and all of that. I had a friend who said, "Hey, come out and help me coach this girls' basketball AAU team." And then I was hooked for about 10 years. Game kind of passed me by a little bit. I'm not as good a coach as some. I don't mind telling people that. Not a bad coach, but I know the game. So I did Nova Hoops. I started up Nova Hoops about next year will be our 10-year anniversary. And haven't looked back, man. I'm worried about you, Ramin. You're gonna be lost to us pretty soon. Your wife is gonna go, wait a minute, this is worse.
Yeah.
But I will tell you this: the good thing is, and I'm divorced, by the way, partially because of Nova Hoops.
Gosh.
Not to scare you. No, nothing to do with it. I will tell you this: when you're your own boss, at least you can take a day off. When you're with the kids, you can't take a day off. You know that. When you're burnt out, you can take a day. But I enjoy just being in the gym. I do a lot of things on the website, but my favorite part is just going into the gym. I'm sure it's the same for you. You just want to watch games and talk sports, talk football.
Yeah. You guys replace the newspapers and the kind of thorough sports coverage that we grew up with. And the fact that you guys in football and basketball are stepping into that void. And there's some Facebook groups out there as well, but they're not really focused on the current game is what you guys are doing. So I definitely think people appreciate it. They do once you start it, for me, and Chris will tell you, they don't think you're ever going to stop. Like I was talking to some soccer players. I do what you guys do for soccer a little bit, and they're already talking about the season coming up. I'm like, guys, it is December. They don't even try out until March, but they expect it. I mean, it's flattering. People, they look to Ramine, they look for Chris. They look for me, and it's nice to be part of it. Like people care about what we think because they don't care what we think in any other parts of our lives. So so at least they know what we care about. They care about what we think about sports. So um, let's get right into it, guys. I know you've noticed, and Chris may have noticed, but St. James has been advertising tons of transfers since the end of the football season, which is only about a month old now, or less than that, really, for the Winners. And so it looks like they're going to have a lot of transfers going to the St. James from all over Virginia, from what I'm seeing. And and Chris will be more familiar with. There's a lot of like small online programs for basketball, like Bethel Academy. There's others I'm freezing, but there's a lot of it's not just the mortar and brick private schools anymore for basketball. Um, do you guys think that this is ratcheting it up a little bit, and there's going to start to be an effect on the public games? Who wants to go first? Ramine, you want to go first?
I'll
Oh,
just
Chris,
go.
Chris,
I'm
you
going to
got.
throw
All right,
some of
Chris.
this over to Ramin. He's going to know more than me. I mean, I've been seeing the tweets. It seems like all of Stafford County is going to the St. James now. I don't know if that's accurate. He can tell us. But in football, especially, I mean, I just wonder what the impact is because football obviously is a 22-man minimum, 50-man
Yeah.
realistically a game, and it just seems like St. James is, and Coach Overton, obviously a great coach doing a hell of a job, is taking large segments of the public school population. I'll let you talk on that
Well, real,
first.
real, real quick, Chris, but even in basketball, Gideon Academy, Bethel Academy,
We
they've
had
got
one at Woodson. We had one at Woodson this past offseason.
exactly. Oh God, I'm freezing on his name, Coach. But
Kalen.
yeah, Caitlin. I mean,
Kalen
it's
Chilton, right?
yeah,
Yeah.
Chilton. So basketball, it's a different mechanism, different vehicle. It's like these smaller online schools, basically. But it is affected. And I was going to say, Chris, the talent level is down in Fairfax and Arlington out in boys this year. It's dramatic. I tried to find Christmas tournaments this week, and I went to a few. It's the talent level's down. Loudon is still very strong. So I think it is having an effect on basketball, or maybe it was just a great graduating class last year because it was a historic class that graduated.
Yeah,
So
and I think it's a mixture of both. It's okay to say, hey, this is a slightly down year for Northern Virginia basketball. It's okay to say that, especially on the boys' side. On the girls' side, it's not as pronounced. There's not as many schools taking these kids. On the boys' side, I've heard, well, this is kind of a down year a little bit. But you notice it in the height. First of all, because these people that are going to these academies are generally the people that have at least Division 1 height, if not Division 1 ability. And we've talked about this before. I mean, colleges aren't looking at 17, 18-year-old kids unless you're one of the top 100 recruits anymore.
yeah,
So, I mean, you've definitely had an impact there. And as we talked about it before, also, you've had an impact from the private schools as well. Because not all of these private schools will let you reclass. And a lot of these, new academies and whatnot. And as five players for a basketball team. So, if you're coaching an AAU team and you can get 6 or 7 guys to go over, hey, you have a brand new program, right?
it's
So the impact is there. I'm really curious though. Again, basketball less manpower than football, though. I'm really curious to see what it will do to these football teams in the long run.
yeah. Well, Ramin, he called you out.
Yeah, no,
What's
no,
going to
this is good.
happen
I'm
to these
glad you
football
did. We
teams?
talked about this on our show a few weeks back, and we might surprise you. We might surprise with my answer here. And Mason and I both kind of agreed on this point. I don't think it's going to have an impact. Now, and here's why I'll tell you that. I think St. James right now is trying to be a national. By the way, I'm a friend of Dio's.
Yeah,
I collaborate on some stuff with them. And I do with a lot of other coaches in the area, right? Public, and private with the show and stuff. So we get along with everybody. That's kind of one of the things I love most about our show. is that I don't think we have any enemies, which is good. Not yet,
You
anyways.
always
You
have
probably said
enemies,
that's
man. You
right.
always have enemies.
Yeah,
I should say
not
not
yet,
yet,
Ramine.
right?
Not yet. Yeah,
But
I can give you a few of mine if you
yeah.
exactly. Me too.
sorry.
But no, here's the reason why. So they're trying to be a national power, right? And I mean, we knew that from the way the season ended last year. And I don't think, and to your point about the area being down, right? Um, if I can't even, Mason and I did a little test the other day, and we were trying to figure out junior, let's go Fairfax, Arlington, Alexandria for a second, because I think right now PW is the hotter area, right? But just stick to, old Fairfax, Arlington, Alexandria. We had a hard time, we couldn't even name one Power Four kid, junior Power Four commit. Um, and now I'm not saying that if we go through, we might find one. I'm not saying that. I know Battlefield had a couple, but again, that's why I kind of omitted PW from it. So there's not going to be a lot of those guys they're gonna go after. And again, I'm not saying there's not any they won't. Right? You get another Don Nicely coming in a year from now, 2 years from now, they probably would target a kid like that. Part two of that, and I just being here my whole life, you guys are lifers as well. I don't think a lot of the families move to certain parts, especially the powerhouse programs, Westfield, Madison. Talking to a lot of parents, they don't move to those areas a lot of times. And again, I can't speak on every family and every kid, but for the most part, to transfer to a school that's kind of it's sort of a school to part-time school, mostly athletics, right, to kind of get recruited into college to the next level. Those families aren't looking at that stuff. A lot of those families, right, they want prom, they want homecoming, they want a normal traditional day for their kid, and the kids want that too for the most part. Now senior year you might have that, right, where a couple kids are like, all right, I've done that, I've done the prom, I've done the thing, now I can graduate halfway through. But again, that would be a special kid that's looking for the half year graduation, wants to go play football. And I don't know how many we have right now in a lot of Nova. So that's kind of the part two of that, I think. And the other part is, you got Loudon Academy, right? But they're more regional. And I like what Obi Woods is doing, but they're more regional. So they will take some kids. I think Loudon Academy has already taken a couple Nova kids from the western side. They've already taken some Herndon kids, I think, and maybe some South Lakes kids, or they're going after some, or I just broke news. But either way, that they're going after some of those kids. So I think you might see some of the, but again, that's more of a regional academy. They're not trying to be a national academy.
Yeah. And Ramine, I kind of agree with you. Loudoun County had three first team all Mets on offense this year. Something about football. I don't think Madison had any Division One players on the team, and they almost beat a team with four Power Five players. I just think in football development, weight room, there's so many things that are so important to a football team. So I think no matter how many players go to the St. James or Loudon, you're going to have a football competition, and you're going to have some players emerge and some teams emerge. So I do feel confident in that because we're still seeing it. Basketball, and Chris is right as well. I agree with Chris as well in that you don't need that much for a basketball team. But I do feel it's easier to bleed talent from basketball. For some reason, there's more opportunities to start a program. I think it's more of a trend. But again, I mean, Loudoun County is. I mean, the teams here are unbelievable in basketball this winter, and there's great private schools out here. So, well,
And the private school thing, Julian, you're right.
Sure.
And that's never gone anywhere, right? That's always going to be an issue, I think, in this area with the great private schools that we have, especially basketball. We start talking about basketball, closer to DC and Maryland. That's always going to be an issue. How many kids have we lost over the years? Everyone is so fixated on the headline, right, on St. James, right, because of the Hayfield stuff and all the stuff that went down. I think that people. I remember Robinson lost a really good safety a couple years ago to Gonzaga, just a couple years ago. Woodson lost a good nose tackle to PVI last year. And if they were losing those kids to St. James, you'd hear that all over the forums, right? Everyone, well, St. James, another one of our kids. But it's the same private schools that have been doing it forever, and no one really says anything.
Well, I think Coach Overton, they advertise their transfers a lot, which I'm not a big proponent of advertising high school transfers. I think that's a college thing, but I know it's good for business. So I understand why he's doing it. But I don't think like Gonzaga does that or O'Connell does it quite so much, even though O'Connell will they will pick you apart as they did with West Potomac a few years ago. One more thing, and then we can get to some awards. The tougher transfer rules that are being implemented, generally, guys, and we can go back to Chris on this. Do you think that's going to have any effect? The fact that they claim that they're going to make people go to a middle school feeder school if they want to play at the local high school the next year. The rules appear draconian, but then, Petersburg, I guarantee they'll have a way around it in basketball. So, do you think the transfer rules have any effect on competition?
Yeah, I really do. Just because, you get to a certain point where if you have too many rules, I mean, people just aren't going to pay attention to it. They're going to be like, why am I dealing with this? And the irony and I don't want to say hypocrisy because situations are different. But, I've said this many times. I lived on the eastern end of Fairfax County. When I take my kid to school, to an elementary school, how many Maryland license plates did I see pick up kids? And, some of it's legit. Some of it's, the kid, has an aunt in PG or whatever. But I mean, it's obvious that, the Fairfax County, at least, is saturated with people that don't live here anyway. So when you're enforcing athletics between South Lakes and Oakton and, these school districts, first of all, right there, I would personally play it the way it was kind of played with Edison. You guys know Edison was kind of a fallout of the Hayfield football thing, where Edison basketball had a minor violation or something like that about where a kid lived. When Fairfax County started to go, hey, we got to get this together. We got to enforce these rules. I would just enforce it like, if there's questions, go check and make sure the kid lives in the district. That's literally all I would do. And I know for a fact that's what they did for Edison. Because, you had people like Tony Skinn's kid, who's the George Mason basketball coach. They were checking to make sure they lived in the Edison district, which, they did. So, if you hear stuff, okay, maybe go check to see if they live in the district is my thing. But when you do these rules about where you go to middle school, and the parents are just going to go, well, why should I even deal with this? My kid, and you have advantages at private schools anyway. Most schools, except for Alexandria City, unless they've changed it, you can't have eighth graders play on JV. I think eighth graders at Alexandria City can play JV.
Yeah.
But
Loudoun County
private
too.
schools have an advantage back to when I was a kid.
Mhm.
In the seventh and eighth grade, kids would go to private school until the ninth grade, just so they could play varsity and JV sports early. And that's what I would do if you're going to be VHSL and come up with all these rules. And everybody knows they're not going to be able to enforce them equitably anyway. You
Yeah.
know what I mean? I've already seen, I'm not going to name names. I've already seen instances where I'm like, that kid is there now,
Yeah.
and you're always going to have that. So my thing is just check where they live. If you get up, if, and you're always going to have, and, I'm not getting in football. I'm not touching that. I'm not qualified to touch that. What went on with that? But that's my thing. And I think it is going to have an effect because at some point already, it's like, why am I getting all these rules? And, my younger brother goes to a school where Maryland license plates pick their kids up every day. I mean, why is it sports, basically? And I think, and Ramin, I'm sure you agree, all we want is rules that are enforced equitably and across the board, and uniformly.
Yeah.
And my thing is, if you have too many complex rules, you just know it's not going to be done.
Yeah.
So,
I think it's a huge overreaction to the Hayfield situation. And as you said, people are going to transfer for other types of programs, whether it's drama or whatever. They're going to go to a school that's excels in whatever they want their child to do. And for sports, they're not going to be able to do that. So I think it is going to send some kids to private school. But what about you, Ramin? What's your thoughts on that?
So I think so. I kind of liked some of it. The idea, I guess, the idea of some of it, right? I think it helped that this year with the parity we saw in football. I think the parity was wild,
It was
right?
crazy. Yeah.
You didn't know who was going to win each week almost. And I think what that did was, yeah, you'd know if and I'm just throwing a great former player out there. He didn't switch schools. You'd know if a Tony Rojas went from Fairfax to Woodson or somewhere else, junior year. You'd notice that. But I think what a lot of stuff was happening, you had like some of the role players, some of the B level guys were switching schools, and it wasn't a big headline. It was kind of going under the radar, and then that was kind of creating these super teams for a while now. Let's be honest, this is nothing new, right? I know people want to act like they were shocked when they saw some players come over to Hayfield. But come on, we know this has been going on forever. Smaller numbers, but it had been happening forever. And so I think now, I think with the new rules, you didn't see any of that. You didn't see much of that. I think now, is it because of the new rules? Is it just because of the way things are? People, maybe some of the ADs and schools are a little bit more being a little more strict. Maybe they would have done that anyways if it wasn't the new rules, just because of what's going on in the news. Who knows? But I do think that it's been positive thing. I think now, I wish PW, for instance, we'll use PW as an example here. Some of this stuff, and these are bigger rules, right? I know they fall under this umbrella, but not everybody's enforcing it. And just my take, I don't think PW's been enforcing it the same way Fairfax has. I feel like Fairfax Tom Horn's a friend of mine, from way back when. I joke that people see him as walking around like Judge Dredd, and meanwhile, it's still, I don't want to say as bad as it was, but PW, I mean, there were some schools that benefited from a lot of transfers this past year at PW.
Yeah. Well, when I interviewed Amanda Baker, the coach of Langley basketball, she was talking about Chrissy Kelly from Osborne Park, Prince William County, a defending state champ, and she wasn't even really shy about it. She's the best players in Prince William County are going to transfer because she's the best coach, and in Prince William County, there's nothing wrong with that. And it is interesting. I can't imagine all those great players live in the Osborne Park district, but they don't even pretend like they do. So
Right.
it is different.
So it's going to be interesting to see going forward.
And it's such a great. Oh, I'm sorry, man.
No, I was just going to say, are they going to put the hammer down a little bit more, going forward? Are they going to be a little more lax about it still? I know Fairfax, and Tom Horn, old friend of mine, I like what he does, and I think he's doing a good job trying to police it. He's put in an impossible spot, right? You're going to be hated by one half or the other. But I'd like to see a little more, like you said, Chris, a little more consistency across the board. You can't have some people, enforcing stuff and some people not enforcing it.
Yeah. Yeah. Chris, did you want to jump in here?
Yeah, I just wanted to say, and it's a great point comparing football to basketball. You don't notice the football transfers right away. You notice when a 6'7" guy walks into the gym who wasn't there a week ago. You know what I mean? It's a different ball game. I just want to throw out too, I occasionally find that hilarious. My favorite transfer of all time since I've been a website is Josiah Freeman, a Division I athlete at Paul VI, who transferred to Manassas Park in time for the playoffs and was playing George Mason, which is now called Meridian. Well, I've never seen more irate parents in a gym. I can't blame them one bit, and you should have rules that you shouldn't be able to do that if you play. And I think we've discussed that. I think VHSL enforces that a little better now. But man, that was hilarious. I wish you guys could have been in that gym.
This is the last year that you'll be able to transfer during the season from private to public. Because Colin Bird at Tuscarora, who now has 8 Division I offers, he transferred mid-season from Paul VI and led them to a state playoff.
But even that was better because that was like in December.
It was early enough.
Freeman coming in February, which although hilarious, shouldn't.
What about the 6'6" Jaden Harris from Potomac? He shows up 2 weeks before playoffs a few years ago, and it almost leads Potomac by Patriot in the.
You have never seen more irate parents in a gym than the Meridian George Mason for that playoff game, and I was just sitting there laughing, but I agree with them. Yeah, shouldn't happen.
That's right.
Now that middle school rule they're putting in, we were debating this at work, and that's the other funny thing about some of these rules. People are still trying to kind of grasp them, and not everyone understands them. They're kind of written kind of vaguely, and people are kind of. So we were debating this. There's a bunch of coaches debating this. Is it trying to, like, for instance, if you're at a middle school that feeds into, just say, Madison, and you're an 8th grader there, you can't just go to South County, somehow transfer there? Or if your family moves and you went to 8th grade at the Madison middle school, and your family moves to the South County district, can you go to the South County high school? They can, right, if they move.
I think if they move, they still can. I think if they're going for a program,
right,
to transfer, I think they have to be their 8th grade. I think that's what the rule is.
Right, bona fide was the word Tom used. If it's a bona fide move and they move,
I think so.
Then they're good.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, it's like the NCAA, enforcing the new stuff. I mean, what are they going to do? They're going to have lawyers. They're going to have trials. I mean, just make the rules simple and enforce them uniformly. That's the answer.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, it's going to. Well, to be continued. It's going to be It's going to be interesting. So let's go to some awards for 2025, and I just give you guys have a little fun, talk about people that caught your eye or moments that caught your eye. I thought we'd start with the moment of the year. What would you put as the number one moment of the year? And I can think of several. That's why I do this because I love looking back on those great memories. But well, Chris, why don't you go first? What would you say is your 2025 moment of the year?
It was there's one game that we've harped on a lot. And I'm interested to see what you guys think from a football perspective too. This is a unique opportunity for me to kind of get into the football of it. The state title game. There's just nothing like it, at VCU Siegel Center. I'm sure you guys get the same thing for football. So it's very easy for me to go, the Jordan Scott two-handed jam at Siegel Center back in March or something like that. And that may well be my moment. Just, I'm going to harp on this. Woodson beating Oscar Smith. Gosh, I'm gonna keep going back to that for a lot of your superlatives, I think, because that was a wake me up moment. And it was a school in Northern Virginia that is widely regarded as a good basketball program. Obviously, Doug Craig already had a state title. The first year we were a website, they beat Hilton down in Richmond. But it was still kind of a moment where you said, wow, even in down years, or even with a Northern Virginia team that you probably don't think is going to win the state championship, they can beat anybody. Because around here, the depth of talent and the coaching from a basketball standpoint, in my mind, is superior.
Yeah.
And if you're like me, a mediocre kind of coach who knows the game, but you don't last at the varsity level. The coaches around here are so good. And that was really a moment for me. And I'm not going to get into the 757, stuff and the overrated stuff. My mind is if you combine the private schools and the depth of talent around here, it's not even a debate anymore. Northern Virginia is where it's at. Not even getting into that. That was a significant moment on the boys' side.
That was a big moment in the way they did it. On Oscar Smith's home floor, they led from start to finish. I think they won by 20. I couldn't believe it when I watched the replay. I just figured they must have had a hot shooting night or something happened, and they just dismantled them. And it was just a great. So that's a great one. Ramin, what about you? What is your moment of the year?
So again, it's easy to say. I agree with you on the state title, and those are always, especially now that would have fallen under the last state title would have fallen under 24, right at the end of 24, that ending between Madison and Oscar Smith. But let's bring it back 300 days, 330 days later with the rematch from last month with Oscar Smith and Madison again in the semifinal to get to the state final. What a game that was. Holy smokes. Again, coming down to the last play again from 11 yards out for Madison. And to your point, Chris, everything you just said, I mean, look at Madison. Madison compared to Oscar Smith's roster, no Division One guys. I don't even know if they have any Division Two guys on the Madison roster. And this hard hitting, well coached, and then well coached in Nova. I agree with you. I mean, the Westfield coaching staff, Madison, you can go on and on. Yeah, that was fun to watch. I think Madison Oscar Smith to me from last month was amazing, and it was everything that people want to talk about the talent here in Northern Virginia. Well, they're doing something right now. And we can talk about it later, but Baron Taylor from St. James, and a friend of ours, he put like an op-ed piece out recently, and I'm gonna see Baron this weekend at the Senior Bowl, and I'm gonna have him come on our show. We're gonna do a little debate because I'm gonna tell him this is breaking news. He doesn't even know he's gonna get this invite, but because I disagree. And to your point with the talent at 757, and they can't say, well, omit Madison. That doesn't. You can't do that. You can't say, "Well, take away this team and then compare Nova to whoever else." No, I mean, Madison is a big part of Nova. I mean, and year in and year out, and you could say they don't have the talent, but they're still doing it. So, but coach counts. I mean, but just an amazing coach.
Yeah, and look at it by a standpoint. Anywhere in the country can get an all-star team together, a state all-star team together that crushes everybody. But if you look at the depth and talent around here, I mean, and just the coaching level, I mean, it's almost unparalleled, I think.
It
And
was well. I will say, Ramin, I was lazy that Saturday, and I just figured I'd watch it on NFHS and didn't go to the game. The feed broke when they were on the 12-yard line,
oh,
so so no one could. So Madison's down six, Chris, with a minute to go. They've driven down the field, and they were down 20 or so. This is a huge moment, and we didn't. None
oh.
of us could tell who won. And then I think I saw Ramin's feed or something. I finally
We
saw
did. We
that.
had a live show going on. Even that kept crashing too. Everything was crashing over there.
That was terrible. But well, good. Those are great. Let me just let me add my moment of the
Okay, can I
year.
say one thing real
Yeah,
quick? Because
yeah.
you brought up Woodson and the parallels between Woodson basketball in a lot of ways, and probably not just Woodson, some other schools around here too, but Woodson's the one that really, because year in, year out, with what we would say mortals, right? Mere mortals, right? What they do, very Madison-like, right? And Coach Craig's a great coach too, obviously, Coach Counts. But you look at the teams that they put out there, and that's not an insult to say that they're, again, mere mortals. They're not trotting out a bunch of Division One guys year in and year out, and yet they're always competing at a very high level. But that also speaks to the feeders and to the youth leagues at Madison with Vienna, because that's kind of what their thing is with football, and then Turnpike basketball and some of those travel programs in the Fairfax area. It speaks a lot to them, to the younger age groups.
Also, Madison and Woodson both have great boosters in their building. They have a community support that not all schools have. That helps. Well, real quickly, my moment of the year, I'm going to go to soccer. Um, McLean had one of the best teams I had ever seen since I've been following high school soccer. I've been following it forever, like 6, 7 years, because my son played. And I think McLean has at least 5 or 6 Division One players on the team. I mean, they were unbelievably good. They were trash talkers. So I mean, this is a team everyone loved to hate. They were physical, and they had beaten Wakefield 5-0 early in the year. And when McLean scores, they rub it in. They take the shirts off. They could be obnoxious. So it was a Friday night. It was windy. It was rainy. There were tornadoes in the forecast. I can't believe they actually played the game. I didn't go because I thought it'd be a blowout. Plus, I thought it'd be rained out. Well, anyway, Wakefield wins the game in penalties. It was 1-1. No, it was 0-0. They win the game in penalties. The coach comes over. He's a big guy, Coach Eddie Carrasquillo, takes his shirt off like the McLean players and waves his shirt and celebrates with the crowd. I'll show you guys video. That was my moment of the year. It was nothing like that moment. And then, but I actually I thought you guys had great ones too. Let's move on to upset of the year, and this time we'll go to Ramin, and then you would have probably had that Madison team, but instead you had the
Yeah.
moment of the year.
I
So
mean, it was funny. Again, I called Dan Mesa last night, my co-host, and I was like, "What do you got for upset of the year?" I was like, "I can't think of anything." And there was a lot of almost upsets, right? Like you had the Madison Oscar Smith one. Um, there was a weird one. Remember, South Lakes almost beat Battlefield. They almost snapped Battlefield's 40 some odd game win streak. They lost in the final seconds. South
kickoff return, right?
Right, right. So there was a South Lakes one almost. Do you remember another Battlefield? No, Patriot almost lost to a Osborne, not Osborne Park, Osborne regular, Osborne
Yeah.
almost beat Patriot. Middle of the year with they had the interim coach Mel Morgan who did a great job over there at Osborne. So a lot of almost, and I'm looking at it. So I got two in retrospect. Chantilly, who didn't make the playoffs, they beat West Springfield early in the season. That's it. Looking at the time, we didn't really know. It was early in the year, but looking back on it, West Springfield didn't lose another game, and Chantilly didn't even make the playoffs. So that's a huge upset. And then the other one, probably Herndon South Lakes. South Lakes had a really good season, and actually, South Lakes was coming off of the almost win against Battlefield. It was coming off that game, and we were talking about it on the show, and we are like, they're gonna blow out Herndon. Herndon was struggling, and I love Coach Richards over at Herndon. And Herndon pulls the upset in overtime, and you know how that game is. South Lakes Herndon. That's a crazy rivalry, and it was on a Saturday, and the place was just was going bonkers.
Homecoming also.
Yeah, and they kicked a 50, I think a 52-yard field goal to win the game, a
Yeah.
walk-off kick. So, I mean, I know those aren't like glamorous state title on the line type games, but those were pretty big upsets in the scheme of things.
I was lucky enough to be at the Herndon South Lakes football game. That was
Oh, you
amazing.
were at that game. That
Yeah,
game was it was wild.
it's crazy. The last 3 minutes were insane, but
Yeah.
there was a lot of like I mean the Centerville games. They had two games that were just like that as well. Football season was incredible this year.
Yeah.
Really. How about you, Chris? Do you have an upset of the year?
Well, we already talked about the Woodson one. That was a big one. You don't boil it down to a couple games, but on the guys' side, you were there for the McLean march through the Liberty District tournament.
Great
That
game.
was 3 games. I believe they were a 5 seed in that tournament. Great run. Could happen again this year. Liberty's pretty wide open. I would point out that, and I would also point out the Heritage girls, who never really won a game where you would say they were like 20-point underdogs or anything like that, especially with the pace that they play at. But they were not really expected to win a state title like they did, and they did it in pretty impressive fashion. Their semifinal win over Hampton. And you had Taylor Cook on, I believe. She's an Old Mason player. She is one of the most prepared coaches in the universe. And I would point out the Heritage one as well. I don't have a superlative single game upset though.
Yeah, yeah. It's funny about Heritage. I believe that's the first team state title in the history of the school. It has a certain commuter. It doesn't have a community feel that school because it's kind of like right by 267. There's no communities really nearby. It's like a hodgepodge of different neighborhoods. It's the next one over from where I am now. So but it still has a good vibe in that school. And for what I was so happy for what they accomplished, and I felt like that gave Heritage football some energy this year. They had a good season, and the boys basketball team went to state as well. So I think that was Coach Cook did an amazing job, and I think there's a lot of good things in store for that community and that school. So I want to give my upset of the year. It's actually the same game, the Wakefield McLean soccer game, but I'm going to just to further underscore this point. At the same time, the two best teams in the area were McLean, who was really good, but Westfield had always had McLean's number, even though McLean had more talent. But Westfield had beaten early in the year. They're just really cagey, really talented team. And so they were playing Herndon at the same time. That terrible weather, they had rain delays, awful. And Herndon was down by one at halftime, and that's when they called the game for tornado watch. And I thought sure the game was going to be ended with a 1-0 score. So we left and my son and I were there at the game. We came home and we thought that game was no way they're going to play it. Well, it turns out that game went to penalties too. Herndon comes back and scores. They go to the penalties. So the Herndon Westfield game are in penalties at the same time that the Wakefield McLean game are in penalties. So the two best teams are in penalties with teams that they already beaten pretty easily that year, and both upsets won. The Wakefield with the shirt off from the coach, and then Herndon, O2 Basong was player of the year, my player of the year, and he's playing at ODU now. He takes his shirt off. This was in 5 minutes, and I was live streaming both, and the whole community was just watching this and just reveling in this excitement. So those were two great upsets within, probably 2 minute, 5 minutes span. So that was just an incredible moment. So I'm gonna stick to the soccer for that. Well, let's go to game atmosphere. This is interesting because it can be anything. You can have a great atmosphere, and it can surprise you. You didn't even expect it that night. So what did you guys pick for game atmosphere of the year? I think Chris, did you want to go first on this one?
Not really, because I'm still unsure of that, but I'll go ahead and talk about it. And it goes, are we doing a different a best rivalry too?
Yeah, you can do it however you want to do it. No
Yeah,
rules.
it kind of
Yeah.
goes for me since the last 5, 6 years, I've really been struck by the Rotary Cup between McLean and Langley, actually. You don't see it as much anymore. And one of the things with VHSL, debate it how you like, is obviously we've talked about this many times, the reclassifications of districts so that rivalries don't always survive anymore. That's why it's good to see on the basketball side rivalries like Marshall and Madison still kind of going. I mean, you have Madison Oakton too and stuff like that. But Langley McLean, when you're watching kids lined up outside the Langley gym, standing room only, they're doing the thing where the fire marshal, I think everybody's a fire marshal these days, just like everybody's a podcast person, like myself, letting people in, to do that. That's always kind of the atmosphere for me. McLean fans, Langley fans, and it's really something to witness.
Yeah.
And it struck me. And there are other great rivalries, other great fans, obviously across. I got to get into them. I'm hoping the Washington Liberty Yorktown is gonna, keep going to that level. And you guys talked about South Lakes Herndon. From a basketball standpoint, when you have one team that's a state champion killing them all the time, it's not really a rivalry anymore. When you have and I got to throw this in because I was born in Milwaukee, when you have the Green Bay Packers beating the Chicago Bears 36 out of 44, is it still a rivalry? Well, it is when the other team gets good again. So, and that's what we're hoping to see with Herndon. Because, like you guys talked about, South Lakes Herndon is something else.
That's one of the best rivalries in the state 20, 30 years ago. So hopefully it'll come back. Well, that's great, Chris. Ramin, what about you? What game atmosphere was memorable to you?
So we had a weird situation this year because it was the first year of doing the Friday night show, the kind of the red zone show that we did, where we're showing all the games. I was here, and Mason was at his place, and we were broadcasting the games from and we were kind of hopping around the dial. Now we went to two games at the end of the season. We went to West Springfield Braddock, and that was the regular season finale for the conference and for the one seed. And that was an amazing finish. West Springfield won. The place was electric. And then obviously the second game we went to was the Madison Oscar Smith game, another electric finish, electric game. However, and Chris, you just nailed it. And I wasn't even at this game, and that's how you know it was wild over there. It was the Yorktown W&L game that I think, well, Brady Owens caught that ball at the end, tied it, and they ended up scoring again and won the game. Yorktown did in a pretty big upset because no one had Yorktown winning the conference going into the season, with a new coach and all that stuff. And so I think that game, you could just feel it. The place was going absolutely bonkers. I'm sure they were handing out chicken shawarma sandwiches on the way out, Lebanese taverna, all that stuff. It was a vibe in that game. You could just tell watching it. So I'm going to put that game, Yorktown W&L.
Yeah. Oh, that's a great one. That's an amazing rivalry. Sometimes they get to play the basketball games at 6 o'clock because they're afraid of the kids misbehaving. I want to go now. I'm gonna if Ramin's going to cheat and say we don't have to be there, I'm going to go for the Spring Mills Hanley basketball game last year. I was supposed to go and I got lazy out and I watched it on NFHS. So Spring Mills was the eventual state champion of West Virginia, and they were number one in the state, and Hanley was I think number one or two in Virginia, and they're only like 30 miles apart. And that gym was packed. I mean, you could see people like 10, 20 deep on the floor around it was incredible, and it was an overtime game. But I wasn't there, so that's cheating for me. I want to say where if I had to have been there, I'm going to go with the South Lakes Westfield a regional basketball game, the final. So South Lakes was by far the best team all of last year. They have the great Jordan Scott, but Westfield is the best team this year, and they were on their way to be that way last year. And Westfield had beaten South Lakes in the district final, but I think Mike Desmond was being a little cagey in how he played his team, even though he wanted to win the game. I don't know if he went all out. No offense, Kevin, on you had a great team, but anyway, there was some bad blood between the Westfield parents and Coach Desmond, And the Westfield parents were on him, and they were talking. And I think it's good nature, but it's still pretty tense. So anyway, they played in the regional final at Wakefield, a neutral court. Well, Wakefield is a tremendous place for a basketball game because the courts sits down in the gym, so it's not that big and it's loud, so it's great. But it's an old school environment. It reminds me of a Little Robinson back in the day when they used to have regionals there, a small version of it. And Jordan Scott came out and scored the first 14 points of the game. It was 14 nothing, and that gym was going crazy. It was going crazy. So then, but Westfield came back and Zaya, Chris, what's his name? Isaiah Brown.
Isaiah Smith Jr.
Yeah, he came out and had 4 or 5 3-pointers.
Isaiah Brown.
Isaiah Brown. Isaiah Brown had 4 or 5 3-pointers, and all of a sudden and then the gym was going crazy again. That game had that environment that you don't see that every day. For football, opening day, Madison versus Stonebridge had a really nice environment as well. Football season, sometimes the environment's better early in the season. School just started, a new season. You get a great environment. When it gets to be December, people stop coming to games because it's cold outside sometimes.
Yeah, the cruddy weather, right?
Yeah, you get that a little bit. But anyway, that was mine. So I think we got some good ones there. This is what I'm excited about, guys. The unsung hero. I talked about Jordan Scott. People tell me you're in love with Jordan Scott. You talk about him too much. I hear it all the time, Chris.
I thought that was Georgia Simonson.
Yeah. I love both of them. Right. So, but let's talk about the unsung. Let's find someone that maybe everyone's not talking about. And so there's no right answer here. Ramine, why don't you go first on the unsung hero?
Okay, so I'm trying to follow the assignment this time to the T, right? And I didn't want to pick a skill guy, right? I didn't want to pick a skill guy, right? Someone scoring touchdowns. So Mason and I talked about this. We deliberated a little bit, and I think so. Fairfax's defense this past year was really good. They had a couple guys in that team. They had Payne ended up winning Region Player of the Year on defense. He was outstanding for Fairfax, or Tolson. Sorry, Tolson. But there was an unsung guy on that defense. His name was Anthony Murad. Anthony Murad, I called him the Tony Saragusa of Nova. Tony Saragusa. I mean, this guy's a monster. He's got to be close to 300 pounds, and like lightning quick. I mean, I think he's got a chance to play somewhere. We're talking about guys who might be good. He's only a junior. Where's he? He's sophomore or junior, so he's young. And I think just he freed up a lot of those Fairfax linebackers, some of the DNs to make plays. That Fairfax defense, I know they struggled a little bit offensively this year, but that defense for a good part of the year was lights out. And also, they had a lot of turmoil going on there too, and the defense kind of held it together for a while at least, and kept them in the playoffs and all that. So, big Anthony Murad, the Goose of Nova.
That's awesome. That's awesome to give Anthony a shout out. Because and it sounds like he's got some potential to go far as well. So, Chris, how about you? Who's your unsung hero?
I see it in basketball every day. I was at Wakefield yesterday for the basketball tournament there, the championship, the third place game, fifth place game. And I see these players on a basketball team that play just nails hard defense, set the picks. And I have a soft spot personally. This is me going back forever to when I was a coach. If you rebound, so I went with, the state champions in girls class 6 was Osborne Park. And a lot of people talk about Osborne Park in the vein of, wow, look at all their talent. They have so much talent, and all this. And they do. And they have many, many good players. But one player that just, I think, still deserves more attention. And, this is to Coach Kelly's credit. I mean, she doesn't boast, all this stuff. I'm going to boast for her. Key Rainey is her name. And she's been good forever. She recently got a scholarship to Towson. And the story around here is like, oh, okay, they can play, but are they the right size? Key Rainey rebounds like a champ. She's one of these guards that can play the 4 against bigger teams. She plays the high post against zones sometimes, and she just rebounds and rebounds and rebounds. And I was so thrilled to see Towson, her to commit to Towson because she's a Division I player. Now, I don't know anything about the recruiting of her, where is she going to play the next level, anything like that. But I think she is just an unsung player to this day.
Yeah.
She does it all on the basketball court.
Yeah.
So I went with Key Rainey, even though she's a state champion. So, and she's definitely sung. I think she's still not sung enough.
Yeah, no, that's
Is
great.
that a
She's
sibling? Is that a sibling of the Rainey over at Battlefield or no? Keaton
I
Rainey?
don't know. Well, no, I have no idea. I mean, but if they're in the right county, there's a pretty good chance. Is my
Because
so no,
he
I
was a really
don't
good
know.
player too. Keaton Rainey from he was an outstanding player too.
I mean, I'm guessing yes, then just from the name, but who knows?
she's an explosive athlete. When you watch her play, it's just it's unbelievable that her athleticism. So that's great, Chris. Well, Ramin, did you go on this one? Oh, you did. You did go.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Okay, so it's my turn. My unsung hero is Ryan Goff Glennon. Ryan has played left back for Wakefield, and he broke his foot. He's been a top player, varsity player since his freshman year. Little guy, couldn't be more than 5'5", 5'6". Broke his foot in early April. The soccer season is very compressed. It's like a 2 month season. So I felt bad for this kid. He was messaging me. I know the kid, and I'm like, man, no one's told him he's not going to ever play a organized soccer game ever again. Well, then like 3 or 4 weeks later, I'm talking to another player, and he's like, yeah, did you hear? Ryan had a real good game the other day. I'm like, Ryan, he's playing again. Ryan came back, I think, up with a broken foot 3 weeks later, played 90 minutes, whole game, ended up leading his team to the state final, upset three of the best teams in the state. We mentioned McLean. They beat two teams almost as good as McLean. They beat Robinson and they beat Garfield. Garfield was unbelievable. And Ryan was a big part of that. Ryan is a really good player, but he's an unsung hero. And he really deserves this award. I'm glad to be able to give it to him. He's a good dude. So let's move on. Let's go to Young Player of the Year. Here we're looking for a freshman or sophomore that caught your eye, and things bode well for the future. I think this is Chris. Is your time to go first?
Gosh, I know I had forgotten mine already. So one difference between girls and guys usually is that you see on the girls' side in basketball more freshmen make an impact right away. And that's partially developmental, partially because girls' basketball doesn't have the depth guys' basketball has. And, I would say I'm going to give it to, I want to mention a couple people. First of all, Alice Allen and Maria Arma, the Langley duo that you've mentioned many times. Allen ended up going to PVI, doing well there. Arma doing real well still at Langley, doing a good job. Her this year, and let's put another A in there, Augustine, London Augustine from Robinson, just real talented. She's taken another step up this year now as a sophomore. Those freshmen, along with, I would say, Sammy White. I know I'm missing a couple. Again, my superlatives are awful because they're going to be general. They're not, confined to one person. Sammy White of Loudoun County was another great freshman last year. You see it on the girls' side more. I think we're all watching Christian Toe this year of Hayfield
Yeah.
very closely as a
Yeah.
freshman. You're giving a kid the keys to the bus as a freshman at Hayfield. So, this year just started with him. So, but I wanted to mention him. Those are freshmen and sophomores that really kind of, stuck in my mind this year.
Yeah. Well, those are great ones. You bring up a good point. Often, fresh on the girls' side, freshmen they come in and they play right away and they contribute to great things. Christian Toe is a interesting example. I'm sure Ramin knows his wife, his mother, Coach Lee at Woodson. 2026 could be the year of Christian Toe. So, Ramin, what about you? Who is your young player of the year?
Yeah, no, a great family, by the way. And I'm sure, because she was teaching at Woodson a year ago, and I'm sure, Coach Craig was probably, doing some meditation at the time, hoping that, but
Oh
didn't work
yeah,
out. Didn't work out because I think that's still allowed, right? If you're teaching
yeah.
that,
I
that's
think
one of the
so.
ones.
We
It's got
have
to
no
be.
idea.
If I remember, because we get these all the time, and we did an interview with Tom Horn last season, so he told me all these rules. I believe that one it's got to get approved, but I think that for teachers that's a formality.
Yeah.
But she's not there anymore, so Doug didn't have to worry about that.
Yeah.
Um, Now, so I got two. I got a freshman and a sophomore. Uh, the Patriot quarterback, and bring it to basketball for a second, right? Anthony Mallory. I know his dad's a stud basketball coach, but yeah, he tore it up as a freshman. Tough situation to be in. They were a defensive team. He was kind of a. This is not an insult either. I'm going to call him a game manager, and that's not an insult to have a freshman manage the game, right?
That's incredible.
Yeah, but a lot of people I saw on some of the forums, people are like, "Oh, he's just a game manager." Yeah, 14-year-old game manager, right? To a really good varsity football team. Come on. So yeah, sky's the limit for him. I mean, he's really good. Only a freshman, and Patriot out there, then Battlefield and Gainesville. I mean, that's the big three. So they're going to have some complementary talent, I'm sure, coming up for him to throw the ball to. And then sophomore, this one on the other hand is a household name already. Malachi Lee from Westfield.
Yeah.
I'm sure, and who knows going into his junior year. But he was a sophomore this past year. He tore it up. And I think, God, talk about sky's the limit. I mean, that's one of those. We talk about some Power 5, Power 4 kids. That's one of the Power 4. Him, Flamer, also from Westfield. He's going to be a senior, but Westfield does still have some of those high level guys in football.
Great picks, Ramine. Kind of mad at you for picking Anthony because that was one of my choices. But that's right on. I mean, his poise. Is this when he's being game manager a bad thing? It's that's interesting. That's interesting. It's like your point guard. The way that O'Connell point guard plays, very mature. He's not like this athletic type of point guard. But he makes everyone better. It's kind of the same way you described Anthony there. So that's interesting. People took offense to that. But I'm going to go with Colton Debkowski. He was a freshman quarterback at Woodgrove. Now, Chris Jollay mentioned that freshman girls contribute often in basketball. We know that. It is very rare to have a freshman quarterback. It is very rare. I mean, just size, just the leadership responsibility at that position. I don't want to call them game managers. It's incredible. So I was at Woodgrove and I saw them play. They had a freshman tailback and a freshman quarterback. This kid was honorable mention all Met. And I didn't know he was a freshman. I got home and I found out he was a freshman. So Colton Debkowski, we're going to hear a lot about this kid in the future. Him and Anthony. It'll be great to see how they develop. And they're both at good public school programs. So hopefully they stick it out. So let's go. I know we talked offline. This was a tough one for you guys. Let's go with a good sportsmanship moment. Ramine, I'm going to give Chris more time to think about this because Chris doesn't like good sportsmanship. He likes kids that just win at all costs. But what about you, Ramine? Did you able to come up with anything for good sportsmanship?
Yeah, so I got two. Look at that. I went from 0 to 2. Yeah. I don't know how I pulled that one off, but one was at the game we were at. It was the and this is just an old-fashioned display of it. My other one, this example is a little different, but we were at the Madison Oscar Smith game. And I remember a couple of weeks earlier, there was a controversy with the flag planting with South County and West Springfield. The fight almost happened. So Oscar Smith wins in the last second, right? And they come out for the handshake line. And I know that the Oscar Smith coaches respect the hell out of Coach Counts and company. I mean, and I could see Mason and I look, we're like, look, that guy's grabbing the flag. Well, one of the young guys grabs the flag, and they were going to go plant it at midfield at Madison. And you could see a couple of the coaches run over there. And they're like, get your butt out of here. Right? We're not doing that here. We're not doing that nonsense here. And then talking to some of the parents afterwards at Oscar Smith, they couldn't have been more complimentary, And I get, I mean, that should be the normal thing to do.
Yeah.
But in this day and age, right? People want to, talk and troll on the internet and all that kind of stuff. And so to hear them say, oh man, that's a great Madison team, man. That's a great over and over again. Some of the Oscar Smith parents and coaches, just so complimentary towards them. So it's just refreshing to hear people can still be human beings. Sometimes this day and age, people hide behind the internet and that kind of thing. The other one, real quick, that I want to say a little bit outside the box, I guess, was the West Springfield story this year. West Springfield story, the best year in 40 some odd years. Coach Parker at West Springfield and his sons kind of running that program, which I love. They've done a great job. Scotty Lewis, the quarterback who won, all region, and he, was he was on the bench until last year and kind of came up, and kind of, started playing, and all of a sudden, took his team to, really far. Wickham, Dylan Wickham, the running back that moved in here. And I know this coincidentally, it wasn't one of these like, oh, we're moving there because that's there. They just ended up at West Springfield. It wasn't some kind of like targeted move. And then Lito's Pizza over there in West Springfield, which is now building this like football, mecca over there. They got helmets for almost every team in Nova, and they got jerseys and of not just West Springfield, of all types of teams from all over, from Loudon even. The guy there, Wes, is just doing a great thing. I went there a couple of times. They invited us over on Friday nights, and they had our show on, which was awesome. But they would put on games. The bar area it was like high school games. They had high school games on all the screens. The place was packed, usually with West Springfield families and Lake Braddock families, because obviously where it is. But it was like this piece of like old school community, that you don't see a lot anymore. Especially not I live in Fairfax, right near West Springfield and Burke and Lake Braddock. So you don't see a lot of that anymore, that old time vibe and old time feel. So I just thought that whole community kind of coming together on that run and all that was awesome. So I just wanted to kind of say that.
Oh, that's great. I bet you'll be using him. He's probably in your running for program builder, the next one as well. But Chris, let you in. Were you able to think of a good sportsmanship moment?
Yeah, let me reiterate what you said. That Litos, I noticed that on the internet when you put that out. That's just great to see. Sportsmanship. So, I'm for sportsmanship, Julian. I'm not anti-sportsmanship. That's just not true. I just like to see a little more healthy hate during the game that ends abruptly after the game.
Exactly.
You talk to these girls play. I cover the girls too, and it's like, hey, these teams don't like each other. And then I'll have a parent come up to me and go, oh, they like each other great. They play AU with each other and they're friends and everybody's friends and everybody loves each other. And listen, I'm for that. I like that. Okay. But I just, I like rivalries. I like that stuff. Sportsmanship, I can't think of a single moment. I just can't. You see it all the time. And Ramin, you're right. I saw something like that last night, and I don't know what was said or what was going on or anything like that. But I was watching Forest Park last night win the George Long tournament, and it was a great game. Defeated Colonial Forge in a great game. One of the coaches, if not both of the main coaches, I believe on Forest Park, Coach Mack, and I'm not sure the assistant's name. They went right after the game. They said, "Hey, hey, hey, hey." And they got everybody to, I don't think the kid was even going to taunt or anything like that, but he made sure that, everybody was lined up in this handshake line, the sportsmanship was there, and you see that constantly. And I apologize because, I try to look for the bad as I can't think of a single moment, but you see it around here too. And the Cardinal officials, they give out their sportsmanship award every year. And there are a lot of good candidates in seriousness.
That's a good moment, Chris, as well. I want to mention, Ramin mentioned Oscar Smith. The parents said great things about Madison last year at JMU at the final after the game as well. I read somewhere that Maury couldn't shake hands because it's a 757 thing. You can't shake hands before games. And it's nice to see Oscar Smith having some decency and showing you can still play hard-nosed football and be decent to your opponents. So I thought Oscar Smith was a great one. I'm going to go with good sportsmanship. I have two. Both of them are goalies. One of them is not sportsmanship, but it deserves mention. Herndon's goalie, Zen Patton, was a sophomore, and he was under a lot of pressure. And they ended up, again, winning the state title. But it was his first year playing varsity, and that's like quarterback. It's a tough position for a young player. And in the semifinals of the state, he made two incredible saves in the penalty shootout. They were behind in the shootout. He brought them back and he won. And after the game, he was cool. He went by and winked at me because I was taking photos of the game, and he was fine. Well, after they won the final the next day against Wakefield. He broke down crying after the game, finally. It's interesting. And his teammates all got around him and just kind of hugged him and stuff. It was really a great moment. I got it on camera. I almost get tears thinking about it. So that's one moment. I'm not sure if it's sportsmanship, but his teammates were there for him. I want to go to Falls Church goalie named Farley Sagustumi. Hope I got your name right, Farley. Falls Church beat Lake Braddock in the regional semis. That's a big game in soccer because if you win that game, you're guaranteed to go into the state playoffs, and you're in the regional final. So Lake Braddock's season was over. So Falls Church players are going crazy celebrating, which is normal with their teammates. The goalie Farley, he left the goal, and there was a Lake Braddock player just sitting there. He went by and shook his hand and helped him get up, and it was just a good. He was the only person that wasn't celebrating. His first instinct was to check on his opponent and help him out. And Farley, you get my good sportsmanship of 2025. It was really nice.
That's nice.
It was an amazing moment. All right, let's go quickly. I know Chris is getting ready for a game out there. Let's go to the program builder of the year. This is the adult the coach that elevated a program to new heights. They didn't have to win the state title or win every game, but they put a program on more solid footing. And Chris Jollay, you go first.
Gosh, I just talked to the guy in the hallway. I mean, my superlatives are not good today because I was out covering basketball late last night. I just talked to a guy, Mike Gallagher, and this is a developing story. Woods girls are
They're
undefeated,
good.
and they just beat Robinson last night.
Oh wow.
And they've had two girls in their 8-person or 8 or 9-person rotation go down with ACL injuries.
Mm.
And they're still undefeated and beating quality teams like Robinson. They've surpassed expectations. Mike Gallagher, if I got your name right, Mike, surpassing expectations and bringing that program up. Again, I could go back. I'm sure there are many earlier in the year, but I couldn't come up with a superlative for that.
They have a big matchup on next Monday against Woodgrove. So
Yeah,
I
and
might.
they're playing Yorktown, I think, right now, maybe. I don't know. I'm in a back classroom. I got plenty of time, Julian.
Oh,
We can
okay.
talk all
Good.
day.
Good. Well, that was a great one. And congratulations, Coach Gallagher from Briar. Um, Ramine, what program? And you have a lot of choices in football. There's a lot of programs that took some giant strides this year.
Yeah, I went a couple that are kind of off the beaten path a little bit. So one, Coach Coogan at Falls Church.
Hmm.
I think Coach Coogan's done a phenomenal job. And Mesa was the first one on this 2 years ago when he got hired. Everyone loves Coach Coogan. He's done a great job with the strength training. They're a tough team. They run the ball well. Falls Church, it's not football power anymore, right? By any means. But they were I think a 7 seed in the playoffs. They went 7-3 or whatever they did, 8-2. They had a
Wow.
great season. Them and Mount Vernon were kind of fighting neck and neck for that conference title at the end. So yeah, Coach Coogan, they were like a 2-win team 2 years ago.
Hmm.
So congrats to Coach Coogan. Mel Morgan over at Osborne. He got named. I never one loved Coach Johnson when he got let go right before the season started. And so Mel, who used to be at Woodson and was the defensive coordinator when Woodson had that historic run in 2018. And then he went to Oakton, and then now he's at Osborne. But Mel did a great job kind of just being thrust into that role as a head coach. And we were talking about it earlier. They almost upset Patriot. They had some huge games this year, but they played really well down the stretch. So kudos to Mel kind of keeping them, fighting. And then the last one, South County, after what happened last year and Coach Pannoni having to leave. And I talked to a lot of people in the preseason that said South County's done. They are done. They are no longer going to be the South County football that people are writing eulogies for South County football. And here comes Coach Urquhart, and they're like, well, Coach, and they're bringing in a guy from out from Loudon, and all that stuff. Rock, who came from Rockridge, Coach Urquhart, and so people kind of scoffed at that hire and all that. Well, I mean, they look like a machine this year offensively, and I think he did a great job. That's hard to take over for a legend. I mean, the field's named after the guy that you came in for. That's a tough situation, especially under those circumstances. And I think Coach Urquhart did a fantastic job at South County. So those are kind of three that I had.
Those are great ones, Ramin. And I remember when you guys first got in business, I just happened upon your interview with the Falls Church coach. I'm like, here's these guys with this great podcast, great questions. Why are they talking to the Falls Church guy? I remember that. I'm like, and I'm so glad your instinct was proven right, and I shouldn't have made those assumptions. And congratulations, coach, to all the coaches you named. So I'm going to go. There are some great ones in football. Anthony Parker, West Springfield. He's surrounded by football powerhouses, and he was able to do that. Coach has been around a long time, and the first state title, state first time into the state playoffs since I think 1981, and I was at that game in '81. Marquez Hall, his first year on the job, he's at North Stafford. First day on the job, first year on the job 4 years ago, they didn't win one game. He stuck with it. He played freshmen and sophomores that year, and this year he got to the state final. So that's definitely one. But I went with Taylor Cook, and Chris mentioned her earlier. I interviewed a player from Woodgrove, Maya Bundick, the other day, and we were just talking about heritage. And I said, "Hey, why are they so good?" She goes, "They had the same players the year before, and they won the state title. Just coach is incredible." She won at Tuscarora. Um, her ability to put together a game plan. When I interviewed her last year, and she's a young coach. I mean, her dad is the legendary Chris Dodson at Spotswood. She played for her dad. But I mean, the way she described her game plan, Salem had a Division One post player, Hampton had a Division One, and the way she just described how she took these teams apart was amazing. I don't think she had any like Division One players, but she just had a really balanced team. So Taylor Cook is my program builder of the year. Congratulations, coach. Congratulations to all the coaches. Let's move on to player of the year. This is the Crown Jewel Award, and for Chris and I, it's probably easy unless Chris surprises me. But let's go to Ramin first. Ramin, who is your player of the year for athlete?
Yeah, I mean, another one that I guess there's probably several obvious ones at football. I went with two. I went with Dylan Wickham, West Springfield. I just feel like he was just, I mean, God, look, he was so good. He's only a junior. He's coming back next year. Great running back. And then Will Shields, Centerville.
Yeah.
He was so fun to watch. All those finishes. I kept calling him Dan Marino. I mean, he looked like a young Dan Marino there. So yeah, Will Shields. Those were easy. He could have said a couple other guys too, but I went with those two.
His wide receivers were awesome too. Will Shields.
Yeah.
I mean, four of them. How do you cover these guys? And then the West Springfield running back, the starter at the beginning of the year, I forgot his name, got hurt.
Yep.
I think he got 1,000 yards the year before. This is a kid they weren't counting on, and it took him a game or two, and he had a great season. So,
Yep.
great pick, and kudos to Wickham. Chris, who are you going to pick on this? Because I'm hoping you go the other way, so I can surprise you. But
No, I'm
who are
probably
you gonna pick
going
for
your
player
way.
of the year?
Who am I picking, Jordan? I mean,
It's
Jordan.
hard to pick around Jordan Scott, but
Yeah.
but maybe you'll try.
It's Jordan Scott. I mean, and all I'm gonna say about him is just the nicest kid in the world, too. Team oriented, just someone you root for. And I would like to throw in some private school guys. I will throw in some private school
Yeah, you can
guys.
do that.
Another really, but Jordan Scott for me is it. A guy you just buy a ticket for and root for the
Yeah,
whole way. I want to add some people to that list though
sure.
on the guys' side. Nate Ament,
Oh,
um,
yeah.
Highland,
Five-star
he might
recruit.
be the number one pick in the NBA draft.
Yeah.
And I remember covering him when he was a sophomore at Colgan and going, wow, this kid is going to be pretty good, but not thinking he might be the number one pick in the NBA draft someday. And another guy too, after Highland beat O'Connell in a very underrated game for the Division One private school championship down in Richmond. I told you about that game after O'Connell had upset Paul VI. Then Highland took down O'Connell
Yeah.
for their I believe, I mean, it's got to be their first Division One. Nate was over there signing autographs for kids. He took time to talk to me, so I want to give him a kind of a co-player shout out on the private school. And I want to get him real fast. Go see Jordan Smith at Paul VI,
Oh,
because
yeah.
that's another kid who's worth buying a ticket for.
I think he's also five star as well.
He's also what?
A 5-star recruit, which is
Oh yeah,
NBA.
yeah, yeah. I mean, I've had people text me and go, he could score 20 a game at the college level right now,
Wow. Yeah.
and he can.
If I had shoulders and a body like that, I'd be dangerous.
Well,
That
I
guy
heard
is.
you did have shoulders like that and a body like that back in the day.
I was, I was,
Is my information not correct?
yeah. Your information is incorrect. But
Yeah.
if I did, I would have been something else.
Nate Ament, by the way, I mentioned this earlier. Nate Ament, his father teaches at Woodson.
Oh, is that right?
Another
Good
one
Lord,
that
does everybody
another
teach
one
at
that
Woodson?
I like to tease. Coach Craig and I are good friends. I love to tease. I'm like, Doug, you imagine if all these kids came to Woodson,
Exactly.
and it would
Oh,
be totally legal. People would be
that's
like, what's
just
going on over there at
mean.
Woodson?
That's just mean. I mean, I got to get over there. I'm a licensed substitute teacher, so
Oh, you
I'm
got
going
to
to
get
go
over
over to
there.
Woodson and see what's up.
Well, I'm not going to even try to pick around Jordan Scott. I mean, Georgia, Simonson was great. Song in soccer, amazing. I shout out to Matthew Weiler, not a Division One prospect probably, but Division One output this year. Put that team on his back, took them to a state semifinal.
All stop.
So
Used to call them all stop.
yeah, absolutely, absolutely. So let's go to some predictions for 2026. Programs breaking through, players poised for major jumps. We covered some young players, but what are we going to be talking about next December when we do this again? This is Chris. You want to go first?
Well, the first thing I'm looking at, I'll actually throw you a bone for soccer. I mean, with the World Cup coming this
Yeah.
summer, I'm very excited about that. It's been since 1994 since then. I'm eager to see kind of what effect that has on soccer. And I'd love to be able to talk about that. Not intelligently. I mean, I'm not a soccer guy, but I told my son's going to be 6'4" and he plays soccer. And I'm like, what are you doing, man? What are you doing, man? But yeah, you got to do what you love, right? And I'm hoping a lot more people love soccer, in the United States after this summer. What we're going to be talking about next year is we're going to be talking about more state champions from Northern Virginia on the basketball side. I'm telling you, the girls' side in Class 6 is nuts this year, where you could have legitimately 6 state champions on the girls' side, I think. And that's not even mentioning like Manchester down in Richmond that could easily win the state championship as well. We're going to be talking about that. We're going to be talking about a private school tournament too on the guys' side that's going to be insane. You're going to have, I already mentioned, like O'Connell, PVI, Highland, all that. That's going to be insane this year. And the guys' side, you're going to see a Woodson this year. I just don't know who it is. But I guarantee you, again, with the depth of talent here, you're going to see some upsets coming from Northern Virginia teams on the way to a state title somewhere. And Class 6 is going to be a battle again on the guys' side. But do not be surprised if maybe this is finally the year we go, Sherman Rivers, you did it,
Yeah.
or something like that.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
I'm not gonna spoil it because I have no idea what's gonna happen, but it's gonna be fun to talk about.
Sherman is an historic figure. He's tired of winning the Susan. He's tired of winning the Susan Lucci Award. He wants to win the whole thing this year, and he has the horses. So let's see.
He handled it like, he handles it with such class
Yeah.
too afterwards. He's becoming one of the guys you root for, like Tony Bentley at Wakefield to
Yeah.
get it done. You know what I mean? So and we're going to be talking about something like that. It's just who is this year's heritage,
Yeah.
on the girls' side. I mean, I think it's going to happen on the guys' side. We're going to be talking about something similar this year.
Yeah, that sounds great. Well, Ramine, what about the All Hitches guys? What are you guys going to be? What are you guys going to be reporting on next year? Who's going to break through? What's going to be the big news of
Okay.
2026?
Well, first thing, does Anthony play for Patriot or no? Is he just football?
I think he's on JV. I think he's on
Is
JV.
he JV kid? Okay.
Yeah,
We were talking about that at work. We were trying to figure out if he played basketball.
he's
or
a good
not.
player. He's a good basketball player.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, I'm sure.
He
I'm
does.
sure.
He's good.
Yeah.
He's good. Yeah.
All right, so I think next year, just talking about teams to keep an eye on. Now we still got some hires that are out there right now. They're still trying to hire for Robinson. It's a premier job. I mean, I know it's not what it once was, but talk about Robinson football. That still means something around
Yeah.
here. Robinson Oakton, that's the other one that's still hiring. Another premier job, I think. And then TJ, which would be a kind of a fun place to coach, I think, for different reasons. But those who are and you never know. There's always those January, February openings that happen in football every year. So who knows what else will pop up and surprise us. But so knowing that, going into it, Patriot, South County. I like what they did. Keep an eye on Patriot. I mentioned Coach Urquhart earlier. I think it's going to be a down year in Patriot. I think Blake Braddock graduated, Ty Jackson, and a lot of those guys. I think keep it in South County was so young. So South County is one to keep an eye out. National, Mount Vernon graduated a lot of guys. Keep an eye on Hayfield. Concord, obviously Westfield, Madison, right? Death taxes in Madison and Westfield, right, for football. But Oakton. Now Oakton's hiring right now. There's some rumors, and we'll see who who gets that job, right? But Oakton, you look at guys. Look, Jack Martin at quarterback, Dalen Jones at receiver. They have Vasquez at receiver. A great quarterback and two or three great receivers. That Oakton job kind of reminds me of Centerville last year. All seniors, right? And could you imagine a guy like, and I'm just throwing it, I don't know anything. I'm just speculating. Could you imagine a guy like Bobby Ludwig from who ran W&L's offense coming over to a place and running that offense over at Oakton next year with Jack Martin and Dalen Jones? Oof. There's some guys that I like to see, so we'll see what happens at Oakton. I'm not saying that he applied for the job. I'm just what I'd like to see. So yeah, I think Oakton's kind of a sleeper over there. And I think out west, it's always, Battlefield, Patriot, I think Woodbridge again. But you never know in Cardinal, right? You never know in Cardinal what's the soup du jour. Where do some of the students go? What school? That kind of thing. If that happens, so that it's kind of up in the Garfield's been good, Woodbridge has been good. So I think those are kind of. But right now, I'm waiting for the shoe to drop right on some of these coaching things because that's going to tell you, okay, where do those coaches go that left those staffs, and then what other jobs open up? Because there's always South County opened up late last year.
Yeah.
So yeah, I think I'm kind of. And then Dylan Miller, South County quarterback, had a phenomenal year. Christian Wyatt, South Lakes quarterback, had a phenomenal year.
He
So
did. Yeah.
yeah, and they're both young and they're both coming back.
Coach, also there's 4 openings in the Fredericksburg area for football coaches. I saw somewhere online as well. So lots of movement in football. But that's great. Well, let me get my predictions for 2026, and you guys can go ahead and write these down because I promise you they're all going to come true. Football 2026, I'm going to go with Woodgrove. Woodgrove, they're really young.
Chris is taking notes. We got to revisit this next year. He's taking the notes.
Take notes, please. The guy does a great job. Coach Barlow does a great job with Woodgrove. They got some great young players. Woodgrove. Class 6 boys basketball. It's going to be Westfield wins. That's the chalk, right? That's the chalk. I'll go with Westfield for girls. Osborne Park wins back to back. And then I'm going to go with, for boys basketball, I'm going to say it stays in Loudoun County for Class 4. I don't know if it's going to be Heritage, Broad Run, or Tuskegee. But I'm going to go with one of the Loudoun County boys teams to win. I'm not sure about the girls teams yet. So did I do football? So those are my predictions. In soccer, I'm going to say in soccer, Westfield breaks through. They got to name a coach, but they got some great players. Ethan and Reyes do an amazing job, and that's my soccer prediction. So, guys, this has been great. Your breadth of knowledge is unbelievable on this call. I just learned so much just talking to you guys. Do you guys have any parting thoughts for people as we sign off? Ramine, you want to go first?
I got one. It is not the. I saw people writing their eulogies, preparing them for Nova football after the Oscar Smith game. I told you we're going to have Coach Barron Taylor on our show at some point. It's not. It's fine. Take a deep breath. They came what we could be in a situation where Nova football just won back-to-back state titles. Exactly. And then at that point, my question was, would everyone been down south been crying and saying it's the end of football for 757? relax. Nova football's not going anywhere. It's fine, and I'll be happy to debate that one later in the off season.
Yeah, well, yep. And Chris wrote that down as well. Northern Virginia is in great shape in football, and if we don't win it next year, we're coming after you, Coach. So, Chris, what about you? What are you? Any parting thoughts?
Well, I've kind of neglected Westfield. I'm hoping to see, I would love to see them win a Class 6 state title. Kevin Harris has already done it over there, but they certainly have the horses to do it. I'm looking forward to seeing if that comes true. And I mean, just thank you guys. I enjoy the football. One of the things I do spend too much time on the NFL on Sundays when I should be working on high school basketball. But I'm thank you for what you do for the Nova Football Podcast. I mean, it's great to hear your insight, and Julian, as usual, it's great to hear what you have to say. And I am interested in soccer. I just have no time.
Yeah. Well, next time there's a great game and you're happen to be local or it's near you, I'll make sure. Yeah, I'll let you know. So we'll go
Please.
check out one. So
Yeah, Chris and Julian, thanks a lot for what you guys do. Like I said, Doug and I talk a lot, and I've heard good things about both of you guys over the years. Because I know he's been interviewed by both of you guys many times, and he speaks really highly of you guys. So yeah, but thanks for what you guys do. It's awesome stuff.
Oh, well, thanks for saying that. Great to do it. It's great to have. I mean, next year, Ramine, looking forward to getting more and more of your content up. You guys just put out some great stuff, Chris. I'm always trying to repost your stuff as well. Just want to thank all the players, coaches out there that put on these administrators that put on these great events that we can cover. Thanks for being available to us for interviews and just appreciating the work we do. We may complain sometimes about things, but we love it. That's why we keep doing it. And so we want to thank all you guys as well. And look, guys, I appreciate you coming on, taking an hour and a half of your time on a holiday week, and look forward to collaborating with you guys more in the future.
All right,
Happy
thanks
New
for
Year,
having us.
guys.
Happy New Year.
Yeah, happy New Year to everyone, guys. Thank you, guys. Appreciate it.